Hey everybody, we are on to day 2. So we went ahead and got the frame all leveled out and got this up on jack stands a little higher. I was quite intrigued by the motor, the U-joint hitting the drive shaft, keep it original. So I went ahead and moved the cab back on the chassis for right now, and I moved the engine back a little further. So we are about where we should be, ballpark. Transmission crossmember is sitting high, which I kind of figured. But the placement of the engine right now, obviously the front engine mounts are going to have to come out. Them are the original engine mounts for the Ranger 4.0. The placement of this now actually looks fairly decent. It's really high on the chassis, and that's okay. My wife actually wanted to slam this thing pretty hard, possibly bag it at some time, but that's a whole different ball game right now. So I might just mount the engine as high as it is right now and work with it. I can always cut out the firewall and make room. That's not a problem. We gained quite a bit of clearance up in front. Probably going to need an oil filter relocation kit. The exhaust looks like it should be okay. The only issue I think I'm going to end up actually running into would be the rack and pinion. And we'll just go ahead and see if we can take and re-angle that and tip it back and work with it. But all in all, I think it's going to be feasible, and we're going to work with it and see where we can go. It is quite a wide engine, as most mods are, so it is what it is. Make it work. We have a welder and a grinder. We can get to it. So I think we're going to go ahead and get this back out, cut the front engine mounts, the original mounts off, and see what we can do for mock-up today. If we can get this in a halfway decent position, maybe we'll just leave it there. The original transmission mount does need to stay in place. That's also the torsion bar support that goes across. It's bolted in pretty hefty, but it doesn't need to stay the same shape. So as long as it stays in, and I just lower it, re-strengthen it, I think we'll be fine. But the rear end is going to be lowered anyway. I think what we're going to end up doing is going ahead and flipping the axle on top of the springs. I'm hoping I can get enough lowering out of the torsion bars in the front for right now that I can level the truck pretty good. But we'll have to see. Time will tell. I won't be able to find out how low I can go in the front until after I get some weight off of it, or weight on it, excuse me. Get the cab mounted, get the fenders on, have the engine in place, and get some tires on the front. Then we'll go ahead and lower the torsion bars and see how low we can get this thing. So we're going to keep on moving. Today my oldest boy should be in the garage with me for a little while. We're going to try and teach him some stuff on fabrication and go from there. He's 14. He's intrigued by cars, so I'm happy for that, and we're going to go ahead and see if he can learn something, take something out of this. Alright, so not a very productive day today, but we did get a few things done. Didn't end up going as we planned, but we did get a little bit going. Went ahead and cleaned up the original engine mounts, front end mounts, cut the transmission crossmember out and put a tube in there so we can have a little bit of clearance for the transmission pan. All that's out. Got a lot more room in here now. We got the rack unbolted from the original spot and rotated down So I'm not bolting that back up until after I have the engine in here and I can figure out the angle I want so that we can get it hooked up to the cab. All in all, still a good day. Not extremely productive, but good enough. So we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. All right, so we haven't got very far this week. I've been busy, kids, running with them. So got the 4.6 pretty much close to in position. I got a temporary cross member in for the transmission mount. The transmission mount that's on the transmission is actually off a big block. Running into some issues that I'm not liking. One of the big ones that is actually kind of easy to solve is the header clearance, or in this case exhaust manifold. There is no clearance. It's hitting frame. We can always make new headers. That's not the end of the world. Where I am running into problems though is clearance around the AC pump, which I could care less about, but I still do want to be able to work on it. The clearance for the oil filter, power steering pump, the water outlet, or inlet, excuse me. There we're running into all kinds of problems. And actually I should move the engine back a little further than where I have it, which is already back quite a far. And it's actually sitting kind of high, so running into quite a few areas already. It's okay with it sitting high, not too worried about it. That way I wouldn't have any issues with the oil pan hitting. But all in all, it's not quite fitting the way we want it to. So there's a good possibility I might just go ahead and mock up a big block in here and see how that fits. It should fit a little better. The mod motor is the widest motor out of the Ford family. The big block is a little bit narrower, plus the exhaust ports are higher on the block than the mod motor. So might just give that a try. Obviously I have a 460 over in the Thunder Chicken, but I by chance have a block. Actually I got 2 blocks sitting there, a few heads, and I believe I have another 2-wheel drive transmission in there too for a big block. Otherwise I do have a 351 Windsor sitting that needs to be gone through. I have a transmission for that as well. I was just looking forward to using the 4.6 because it's something I had. It's fuel injection, easy to assemble, being it's already running. Nothing else I have is running right now. So the only other real option I have is to use a different frame or to cut this one and make it a little bit wider, which I don't really want to do. Kind of want to stay on a budget here, but I still want to make it so it's functional and fun and a driver. So I think right now I'm just gonna throw together a big block, mock it up just to see what it looks like, see if it's any better than the 4.6 is as far as fitment. And who knows, maybe we'll just end up going that route. Don't have any spare carburetors laying around, but the carburetor that's on the Thunder Chicken would be coming off anyway because that's going to need a bigger carburetor. By the time I'm done with that, that's probably going to be a pretty hefty motor, being I have to take it back apart. Might as well do it right. So we'll go ahead and get going, see if a big block will fit in here and see what kind of room we got. Worst case scenario, I can always go find a different motor laying around. If it's a V6, it's a V6. It's a driver. I want it to be fun, but it's a driver. I would rather have a stick in it, but my wife has a hard time driving a stick. Got to get her learning on that a little bit better, and maybe it'll go better. But for right now, we'll just go with this. All right, hey everybody. A little bit of update here. So the motor is not in the frame. I took that back out. It was not working very well. So I figured that it would be better off getting a body in place so that we could figure out what we needed for room for the motor. So I've gone ahead and started putting it together. Got the cab in a rough estimate. It's not down anywhere. It's not bolted anywhere. It's just sitting here. So we went ahead and got all of the old bolts out, as many as we could. Anyway, so we got a couple out. The other ones I just knocked out. Got them out of there. Same with up here. Knocked them out. And the two on top were able to be removed. So we were able to save those. Inside the cab, they were all square nuts held on inside tabs. So I went ahead and knocked out the tabs, knocked out the square nuts, and right now I got battery bolts holding them in, but they're in, so that's the main thing. So we're just gonna keep going and get the radiator support mounted here. Almost looks like I have to move the cab forward more because I am not saving my sway bar right now like I would like to. If I gotta lose it, I gotta lose it. But it's kind of looking like we're at about the right wheelbase. I gotta put a tire on there and see where we're at. Because if we're at about where we need to be, that's where we're gonna have to be. So I'll have to make some adjustments to the core support and go from there. So we're gonna go ahead and keep moving on it and get the so we're gonna go ahead, keep moving on it, and try and get the fenders bolted to the radiator core support. See about lining everything up, get the frame in position, sorry, not the frame, the body in position on the frame to where I want it, and start looking at making mounts. Get it leveled out and go from there. So that's an update. This last week was a little bit nuts. I had a additional toddler with my kids, so didn't really have much time to get out here. So getting out here now, this upcoming week I'm helping my brother move, so that's not going to allow for much time either. Getting close to start of school, so got open house and whatnot for the kids, but gonna try and work on this a little bit anyway and see what I can get out there for you guys. Thanks.